What's up, everybody? This is Barry with the Borderline Hostility podcast. With me today, uh, a cat and its owner, Derek,
What's up?
and Will.
Oh,
Hello. Uh, are you guys in the Christmas spirit at all?
eh.
And,
This whole year, like, I feel like holidays don't exist.
yeah. But it's just weird that we've been locked down, so like it kind of feels like it should be December by now. I don't know. It seems like every day has been the same for the last, I don't know,
Yeah.
9 months. So
Yeah,
it feels like we should have been like September.
like
It's
great.
Go ahead, Will.
It's Groundhog Day again.
Yeah, for real.
Pretty much.
I bring that up because we are covering a triple feature today of I don't know if what did we term this? Are these underappreciated or just our favorite Christmas? What are we doing here? Was this why do we pick these three?
I think it's just ones that, for me, it was just like, oh, like I want this to be on here, but kind of regret it now. But
Well, every year people go batshit for Die Hard on Christmas, which Die Hard's a great movie, and it's from that magical, mystical year of 1988. But I don't know if it's a Christmas movie or not. It happens to be a movie set during Christmas. I
on
think
Christmas Day, or is it just like Christmas time?
from what I understand, it's just like like he arrives like I don't know if he arrives on Christmas Eve or not, but they're having the Christmas party.
Yeah,
Most Christmas parties aren't held on Christmas Eve.
yeah, definitely not, especially not at night.
Yeah.
But,
But
that's one that throws me off too. Like, I just watched Shop Around the Corner, which is an old Jimmy Stewart movie. That was on people's. I found a couple lists because I do love me some Christmas, and I do Halloween movies. I do Christmas movies. We just kind of sit and just binge. And Shop Around the Corner is on the person's list for a Christmas movie, and the last 10 minutes revolve around Christmas. So it's like. So I mean, it is kind of festive. I mean, it's kind of like people are exchanging gifts, but it's not like I don't know. It's not like Elf, or it's so Christmas centric. But anyway,
well, okay. Well, here's the thing. Like, if Die Hard's a Christmas movie, shouldn't Lethal Weapon be considered a Christmas movie too? Because it's actually set like the last part of that movie takes place during Christmas, and they're actually the TV where Gary Busey shoots it is playing "It's a Wonderful Life," which is probably the ultimate Christmas movie.
yeah,
Although "It's a Wonderful Life," like that movie, like percentage wise, it's only about Christmas for about probably like less than 6% of the movie. It's most of it's flashback.
yeah.
But I guess we set it for discussion when we get to the Christmas the meat part of our Christmas talk.
Well, to finish up our pregame talk here, I hung the lights yesterday. I done my job. The Christmas tree's been up for a week now, so like that's where we are at our house. You want to go around and what have you been doing this week, D?
I don't know. I made pins for our local electors here in Kentucky. That was kind of cool.
It's such a cool story that
And,
your pins were used.
And yeah, to sign the electors. I guess it's going to be Monday, so it's going to be tomorrow. And then I heard that because of all this craziness around the election, that some of our local government officials are under threat of violence and having FBI, details and stuff. And then, what was the other one? I'm drawing a blank. Oh yeah, that people think that Bashir stole the election from Bevin now because of Trump's bullshit.
Yeah. Same as I mean every election before this was stolen. Every one.
Yeah. Just go back and bring all those people back and let them all run for like a week.
I heard Washington stole the election from King George III. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I saw it on Facebook. Must be true. Will, what you been doing?
It's been a rough week because I spent most of the week like traveling from. I think I spent 14 hours in the car going back and forth between here and Moorhead, which I'm fine with because I'm visiting a loved one that had to be sick, but the hospitals, and I understand that they're under great stress and everything like that, like right now, but I don't like going to them when everything's all right. But it's just funny how like people are just dismissive of other people's time. Like I showed up there and then to visit my loved one, and the nurse said, "Well, they're in dialysis right now. That they won't be able." And I'm like, "Okay, well, how long do you think?" It's been? Like, "Oh, it'll probably be about 3.5 hours. You just go wait in the waiting room." And it's just like 3.5 hours. Like Jesus Christ, I was just supposed to go sit and wait in the empty waiting room until then. And it's just that was one of the more frustrating things. I went down there because I hate driving on the interstate because it's dangerous. All the cars are going so fast, and then like you see all these disintegrated possums and deer on the side of the road, and you just
want to pull over and eat them.
Oh yeah. Nothing like gamey deer asshole rotting on the side of the road.
The original fourth meal.
But also, what freaks me out is that like it's very rare that you see like on News Circle, our little mini interstate here in Fayette County, like you'll see like a piece of a tire every once in a while, but on an interstate, they're just gobs of like just tires and tread everywhere, and you would think that like there'd just be like thousands of accidents a day that end in horrible fatalities on the interstate because all these tires that are missing pieces. But
the semi trucks that the tread gets sheared off.
Oh, I did. See, the thing is, I don't know. It seems like the tread on a semi truck would be an important part of the tire. It being like
yeah, that's why they have so many. I freaking I was so mad. I was behind a semi truck or something of the sort, and on New Sur Road actually, and the tread sheared off right in front of me, and I didn't have time to dodge it and had to run over it and fucking knock something loose because I didn't have an oxygen sensor going off on my dash. And good times.
Yeah.
Speaking of good times, Will.
Yes, sir.
You gonna break into that news?
All right.
That
was a great segue.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to try to go through this because I got accused of lingering last week. All right. First off, COVID news. This fascinated me that like there's a region in California that has 100% of beds occupied, and which all these warnings, and we still have this going on in certain parts, in New Mexico, I've heard of 108%, which that seems weird because are there just people doubled up in beds? Or
well, it's like it happened in Arizona too, and from what I've read, they actually have the physical beds, but they don't have the hospital staff to support them. So it's probably people in beds that don't have adequate nursing staff to deal with them. And I think it was either Arizona or like Georgia or something where they filled up a parking garage of beds.
Yes, which is weird because that's a MASH unit, just to it doesn't seem like that doesn't seem like it should be possible here in America. But I guess the beds are the easiest part to get a hold of. Because you can always get more beds.
Yeah,
you can't just magically go to Walmart get more doctors and nurses. All right, vaccine news. The FDA clears the Pfizer vaccine, which is great.
Yep.
But I also think that we're going to see the actual who the more privileged class is in America.
Politicians.
Well, because over in England, the first person that took it was I think she was 90 years old, and and the second person to take it, his name, which is wild. Did y'all hear about that? His name was William Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But I don't know. And then I was thinking about this stem cells, which were supposed to help us out, are now just playthings for rich people now. like it's supposed to be like to help regenerate like livers and kidneys and stuff like that. But I remember hearing a couple years ago that like the Kardashian mom, she was having them injected into her cheeks like Botox, which I don't. That seems like that's a fuck you to poor people that like we're kind of depending on stem cells to actually change things for the better.
Or like stem cells being in the thing that helped Trump get over the coronavirus.
Yeah, like it. Yeah, we'll get that in our Rudy news. Okay. All right. There was an article. Did y'all see about the article about the fight between Fauci and our governor?
No.
Okay. Well, basically, like the gist of it is, Fauci wants. He thinks that there's no reason for schools to not be open.
That just seems weird to me. It just seems weird that is a Fauci thing. Unless vaccine coming.
The only thing I remember is someone asked Fauci. They said, "Should schools be open or should restaurants be open?" Like he had a choice of either or, and he was saying schools should be open more than restaurants. That's the only thing I remember from that.
Well,
I don't know if there was direct contact or if people are basing it on that.
Well, no. Bashir wants to keep everything closed up, which, and the thing is, as much as I love Dr. Fauci, I agree with Andy right now, and one of our groups that we're part of, there's no reason to not have everything just shut the fuck down. Like, I know there's a vaccine on the horizon, and people talk about the economy, but the economy is only good if you have people to buy shit.
And people alive.
But yeah, I mean, you'd have the nicest stock of things ever ready to sell. But if your customers, Derek, are you all right?
Yeah. Starting to clear my throat. Or wait, oh no, that was me shifting my chair. If it sounded like I farted or something.
No. It's just like I'll be talking to her.
That old man sound coming from him.
It's like, okay, get you a sip of water there, clear your throat. Anyway, our own Rand Paul chipped in, and this is how I kind of decided that Andy was right, because Rand Paul agreed with Fauci, and
Any side that Rand Paul is on is the wrong side.
I mean, and also the thing that I was looking into this, Rand Paul, a Kentucky, senator, got his degree from Duke, so that should piss everybody off. Wheel those motherfuckers in.
That just means he's a scumbag.
Okay, and also now this is something where, as much as I love Andy Bashir, this kind of pissed me off too, because the latest Kentucky news is he says that the positive rates are going down, but we had 24 people died. We had 24 deaths on Saturday, which that seems kind of high. I know we've had a couple 30-day death days, but 24 deaths seems kind of high too. That doesn't seem like something we should be getting pumped about.
Well, it's also like, if they're saying the positivity numbers are going down, that's fine. But as long as they're not like, oh, the positivity numbers are going down, we should reopen immediately. Like, fuck, dude. Like, let things run its course. It's like ending your antibiotics early. Like, I'm halfway through. I'm feeling better. I can just stop taking these antibiotics.
Well, I don't know if you all ever had an above ground pool, but we had one when I was a kid, and every year we'd be out there we had the hose in there filling the thing up with water, and that water's cold, and but the kids were like, oh shit, pool's in the water. I mean, water's in the pool. Let's go swimming. Even though we're basically giving ourselves hypothermia, and and my parents, we'd have to wear them down, and they just get in the pool, and we'd be shivering and chattering because but
well, yeah, like a normal pool, sits there and heats up in the sun all day.
Yeah, well, see, we were dumbass kids. We have grown-ups here that just don't. Everything's fine.
Man, freaking Will with his pool. I didn't know he was filthy rich when you grew up.
Let me tell you something about this above ground pool. Like, it it constantly had holes in it. The liner would go around and and because we were lazy and didn't put a pool cover up, we had mosquitoes fill that thing up overnight all the time. It was exquisite. I'm sorry you all didn't get a chance to experience that lush lavishness.
The hyperthermia and all the mosquito bites.
Oh yeah,
Country Club.
it's great. Okay, now on to other news. Rudy, which he might be the honorary bitch sucker of the week again.
Back to back.
Big Psycho of the Week.
Okay, like while we were talking about him last week, and we got done with our podcast. I was getting ready to go to sleep. The news broke that squeezy, shaky, let me just I'll tuck my shirt, farting during interview, like blowing snot on his face and wiping it. As gross as he is, it's weird that he tested positive for COVID.
Yeah, huh. And never wear a mask.
And also, what was funny is that Derek, I don't know if you plan on splicing it in, there's a video during that crazy, during where he farted and that crazy,
Thing.
Melissa Carone, when she was, going crazy. There's a lady that was testifying, and, and he made this Nosferatu-like face at her.
Yeah,
and goes,
it was so weird.
"Ma'am, can you take your mask off?" And she was smart enough to go, "No, I'll just talk louder." And and he looked at her like she was fucking stupid.
It was. I'm almost positive that he just came to the realization that she's wearing a mask. This doesn't look good for the image we're trying to portray. And you could clearly hear her. And I mean, outside of her having a slight accent, because I think she looked maybe Indian or something, you could clearly hear her. And so Rudy stops her while she's doing her testimony, and it's like, "I don't want you to feel uncomfortable, but if you want to take your mask off, so we can hear you better." And she's like, basically, "No, fuck that." And then all the people up on stage that they're talking to are like, "Dude, we can hear. Fucking stop."
Well, and then also,
And I guarantee he had it at that point too.
There's no. They said that the fallout from that, there's been 40 people almost that tested positive for it.
Yeah, you had what's that lady? It's always sitting by gazing at him with loving eyes until he farts. Is it Susan or something like that? What's her name?
I her name's escaping my mind. Jill something.
But I think she tested positive, right? And she went to this supposedly uninvited White House party.
Oh yeah, when they're trying to play that off like that wasn't a super spreader event because a couple people were wearing masks. Yeah, there's a great picture of that where there's literally one dude wearing a mask and 14 other people standing around. It is the worst possible ratio for that poor dude to have a mask on.
So Jenna Ellis is the name of that lady.
Oh,
the lady that totally trounced Trump early on and said that his followers don't believe in real news and blah blah. And now she's just suckling from the teat.
Oh yeah. Well, then also in a miscarriage of justice, Rudy got discharged a couple days ago, and he's been doing interviews and it sounds like he's fine, and that kind of bothers me because and I know you're not supposed to root for people that die, but he's had a long life and he's done a whole lot of evil shit. And and if you think about all the people that died this week from coronavirus and COVID, and especially if you just look at the people that that followed Trump and put their faith in him that died, and Rudy's gonna be okay. Some this COVID's like spinach to these fucking assholes. Somehow Trump and Giuliani, the two evilest bastards on the planet, they get COVID and and they get a handful of steroids and stem cells and whatever the fuck, and then they're fine.
Yeah.
It's kind of insulting to all the people that died.
Well, it's funny because while he's in the hospital, recovering, and he did have some rough days, evidently. But he said that you can overdo it with the masks is one of the things he said, which is ironic, of course. And then he also plainly admitted that he got special treatment. Treatment that us fucking normies aren't going to get, and that's why it went so well for him. So that's cool.
That's why the vaccine, like we're gonna see like a real who they think the more important people are in the world.
And how many? I mean, it's not really a high percentage, but how many people have we heard that had COVID, tested positive, and had like maybe mild to medium symptoms, and then they were sent home to deal with it at home, and they fucking died. Someone comes and finds them dead.
It's horrific. All right, moving on. And Trump and Biden news, actually. All right, the Supreme Court that Trump stocked with like the crazy Christian evangelicals, Bible beaters, rejected Trump's bid to overthrow the election, which should be the end of it, hopefully. But they're not. He's not handling it well, and last night there was another Proud Boys, March on Washington, and it would be scary, but these guys seem like the most average motherfuckers, and you can intimidate anybody with numbers, but these guys seem like they're more apt, if they were confronted by somebody equal to or greater than them, like power wise, they'd be calling the cops instead of throwing fist.
And one thing I don't know if you see he's so rare in public now, where he used to always be out there, and every time I see him, he just looks down in the dumps, depressed, like someone killed his relative, which really he wouldn't care about. But they had a Christmas party at the White House, and it was like all his people attended, and it was like 10 minutes before it started, they let everyone in attendance know that Trump wasn't going to show up. They didn't give a reason, but I'm sure it's because he was probably wallowing in his being like the biggest fucking loser of the nation.
See, I just imagine him being like in a kiddie pool, ones that you just put on the lawn for a kid that you buy for like $10, and him just being naked in a tub like that, and just rubbing himself with KFC, just in that orange hue, just radiating orange light off the walls of the White House.
The hair that's it's just kind of like covering half his face. Feels like he came off the Cure World Tour.
He's got a little Trump doll and a Hillary doll, because no, maybe it'd be Obama, because he has a weird obsession with Obama. So he'd be like, I beat you, like hammer him together.
Like in Spaceballs, like with Rick Moranis is acting out Darth Helmet's acting out But anyway, Time Magazine made Joe Biden and Kamala Harris the persons of the year, and this kind of pissed me off because they really haven't done anything yet.
Yeah.
And it doesn't appear that they're going to do anything radically different. And I can't figure out a couple years ago when they had the Me Too movement, and that was the person of the year. I don't understand why the Black Lives Matter movement shouldn't. They probably should have gotten because these assholes he wrote the crime bill, and she went after the most vulnerable people in society. I can't get behind it.
It's weird. It's definitely something that they could have done next year if they actually did stuff. But like you said, they haven't done anything, and I didn't know about that. This is the first time me hearing about it. I think it would have been better if they had made essential workers person of the year.
See, that would have, I wouldn't have. That would have been nice too. Or if they would put nurses.
I mean, like people like you have had to. I mean, obviously nurses are at the forefront and they're physically handling coronavirus patients, but I mean, people like you have had to run, the convenience store and have, lots of fun interactions with people and anti-mask idiots and stuff.
Yeah, but I don't. It's one of those things where I know how. Somehow I got the essential, and if you look at the game tape, you realize that me not being open wouldn't hurt anything. In fact, it probably made my life a lot simpler. I could have not participated in this capitalist shithole and just played video games all day and enjoyed myself. All right. Election news is Trump went on to demand credit for the vaccine, which he also in a similar news cycle he under ordered it. So we're gonna be behind the curve again because of him.
Yeah, Pfizer's like, hey, do you want more, like a whole bunch more vaccine for the U.S.? And he's like, nah. And like, okay, I guess we'll get to other countries. And what was it? There was a they had like a big White House vaccine or coronavirus briefing, and Pfizer and whoever the other company was, I can't remember.
Moderna?
Yeah, Moderna refused to show up, which was a big slap in Trump's face. And I'm not sure, but I read that basically they didn't want to show up because they didn't want to show up to a thing where Trump was going to claim, like I say, claim credit for it, because like at least let's say with the Pfizer one, they took no government assistance to make it. Like the government had nothing. What U.S. government had nothing whatsoever to do with it.
That was the part that got me confused. Was okay. So we heard Pfizer, Moderna, and there was like maybe 3 to 5 companies that were doing some stuff, that were building the vaccine, and all of a sudden it's like Pfizer's got it. We're gonna roll it out. Well, they're going. So what happened to the other candidates?
There's still, the thing is, which is great, what they're going to do, they're going to roll theirs out. I think they're just, the Pfizer, they got to the finish line first, and they actually got the FDA approval that quick.
Gotcha.
But, and my reasoning is, the more vaccines we have out there, the better off everybody is, because we can learn what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't know if you all watched the when they releasing the trucks and stuff like that, it looked like they're transporting nitroglycerin, because it's got to be that cold, and the storage and the temperature has got to be completely moderated. It's crazy. I don't, the anti-vaxxers are gonna have a field day with it. It's I don't give a fuck about them right now.
Especially after this bit, in Australia, they had, I guess, their own COVID vaccine, and they stopped trials after volunteers were posting false negatives to HIV. Oh wow, she took the cat. What a jerk!
This is my baby.
But yeah, so in Australia, they had trials for this vaccine. And I don't think that, I'm not saying they got HIV or anything, but they were testing false positives for HIV. Just kind of scary.
Well, it does seem like it would be. I mean, it's probably illegal here, because just to test blood without people's consent. But it does seem like it would be kind of a good idea to know what you have. But what are you gonna do? All right, other news. Let's see. Well, the other virus-related thing, the 2 heartbreaking videos of the business owners that went viral this week.
Yeah.
And it seems like, I don't know. I wish that they're directing their anger toward the powers that be instead of the local guys. There's no, because we really weren't. Our leadership went to crap with the coronavirus. Trump knew it was worse than it was, and he downplayed it because he didn't want people to worry. I mean, the same guy that was worried about, who fearmongered MS-13 and the caravans of immigrants that were going to come here and rape everybody. But, he didn't want us to worry about airborne disease that highly infectious. But, and then, and his thing was we'll let the states decide. And some states, you have responsible governors. In other states like Florida, they just let people do whatever they want. like, like I mean, the same guy, the Santos, they let him have the decisions, like what to do, like as far as lockdown, and that's the same asshole. Florida's like the kiddie porn and meth manufacturing capital of the world. And like, and we're gonna let the same idiots that, that don't stop that shit be in charge of a fucking disease.
Oh, and the police raided that girl in Florida that was doing all the reporting of yeah.
Did you see that, Barry?
Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, that was fucking. It was heartbreaking because I'm surprised. It was good that she had video of it. But
Yeah.
it seems like I don't know. It's hard. I'm losing more and more respect for our police force because of this shit. Because they're not supposed to. They're supposed to be protecting the public, not being the hired thugs for like the politicians. Okay. Sad news. Zeus Tiny Lister Jr. passed away this week, which is kind of sad. And I think he was a better actor than he got credit for.
Doesn't even point out my liquor and.
Well, do you all remember the first time you encountered him?
I think for me it was No Holds Barred. I think.
Oh, like I said, it's like we ran into him like in real life. Like, oh yeah, I ran into what was this character in Friday?
Debo?
Yeah, like yeah, I remember when Debo came around, I had to hide my jewelry real quick so he wouldn't steal it.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember that when No Holds Barred came out. It was around the same time as like WrestleMania 5. And it's weird because if you look at that movie, it kind of debunks the wrestling business, but they're promoting it like on wrestling. Like I think Vince McMahon co-wrote the movie, and it's just the movie doesn't make much sense at all. I mean, there's a couple plot holes in it that are kind of suspect,
Yeah.
but the thing is, and it seems like that that was the first time I ever saw Zeus, and big intimidating guy, and he actually looked like he would have been a wrestler first and then an actor, but it was completely backwards. And then I started becoming a crazy film buff. He popped up in a really cool movie called Runaway Train in the mid '80s. I don't know if you all see it or not. And I mean he's one of the more pivotal parts in The Dark Knight. And he was funny, and he pops up in the movie that we're going to talk about later on.
What does he do in Dark Knight? I saw that
He's the prisoner on the boat that throws the thing away, the detonator.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, he's and I don't know. I guess I wish that movies had people that have unconventional looks being the main characters, because it seems like he could have carried he would have been really, if there's a funny romantic comedy written for him, I bet you he would have been great in it, because I mean he had a presence and he was funny in movies. I mean he was funny in the Friday movies, and he had a bit part in Jackie Brown, and he was funny in that too.
I could see it being he could do that he could show up as the friend who's setting him up for a blind date. He shows up, and it's this little white girl, church mouse, and this huge black dude. Is his eyes always crossed, or is that just?
Yeah, I think he's got a lazy eye.
Okay, but if he had that look from No Holds Barred, where he looks like he just came off that set. He's huge, but he's got the heart of gold, and you kind of get the relationship, and it's uncommon. People getting together. I think that he'd been awesome in that.
He was the president of either the U.S. or Earth in The Fifth Element. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and that's a pretty straight up role too. It wasn't overly goofy or anything.
Well, because usually dudes like that, and I'm surprised that I didn't look into it, but it seemed like a dude with his size. He'd been a perfect villain, in a Stallone or Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah,
but but I think he would have made both those guys look look small. Because I mean, I think he was.
Height.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably a good 6.5 footer. And finally, Chet Yeager died. And like, I don't know if you all are familiar with The Right Stuff, but he's the best part of the book and he's the best part of the movie in The Right Stuff. And he's also the first dude that broke the sound barrier. And and all these scientists were telling me like this probably isn't a good idea. And I started like, and I was reading about catching up on that again. Do you all think that motherfucker was crazy?
Like for trying to do what he was trying to do.
Well, I mean, all those the John Glenn and all them, like when I mean the shit that they were doing didn't seem like it was like plausible. I mean, like 10 years before that, if somebody suggested, hey, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, they're gonna go, no, that's impossible. Like we can't. But like and all these basically just like nerds figure out a way to do things, and then the manliest of men, not to sound too misogynist, like we're like, okay, well, you know what, this rocket might blow up, but we might learn something. And it's just like, well, yeah, you're gonna be on the rocket though. He goes, hey, what you gonna do? So I mean, I think all those guys like were a special kind of crazy. It's great, but like like I don't know.
It's
And
like,
also, go
I
ahead,
mean,
Barry.
that's throughout history. I mean, like getting on a boat to see if the world's flat or round. That sounds crazy to me. Like skydiving is crazy to me, and people do it. Thousands of people do it daily, weekly. I mean, it's. I mean,
Well,
like,
it's just like if you're trying to break the was it the sound barrier that
yeah,
he broke? Yeah. If you're trying to break the sound barrier, like there's a lot of like scientific knowledge you can gather from that, and like and if you look at all the things that like were invented because of the space travel, a lot of $1 billion industries were. I mean, Velcro was invented because like they had big gloves on and they couldn't tie shoes and stuff like that. So I mean, and Velcro's $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
But like skydiving, like like what the fuck can you learn about skydiving?
no, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I
and
think we figured out.
that scares me. So like, I couldn't imagine like, hey, get in this thing. You're gonna go so fast that the sound barrier.
There's going to be a sonic boom, and it may tear your plane apart.
Yeah. Like getting in, like you talked about driving down our news circle. News circle's only like 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. People go about 70 on it.
Yeah.
But even that feels like I don't like going 70 when cars are going 70 next to me, so to go to the speed that he had to go. No thanks. I'm good.
We had one more death, was Charlie Pride.
Oh yeah.
Country music's first black superstar. Died of COVID-19 complications. So, yay.
It sucks. I didn't. What's weird? I never associated like they kept bringing up the black part with him, and and I guess that it's crazy because that dude probably saw the worst of the world at one point, like when he was touring.
Yeah.
And that's the only era of country music guys that I like. That Johnny Cash, Charlie Pride, Willie Nelson era. It's garbage before, and I think it's garbage after. So I mean, like, it sucks because all those guys are dying off.
Yep.
Yeah, to be a fly on the wall before he made it. That'd be some scary shit right there.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm fascinated with that era, like the pre Elvis era of music, where the black musicians were like driving the 2-lane interstates, like from place to place, and get ripped off by bar owners, and having to bring a gun to their negotiations in order to get paid, and like and just having like basically a fight for their life just to perform music for just like a bunch of crazy rednecks that were gonna throw drinks at them like a roadhouse. Crazy world, guys. But anyway, that's the news.
That's the news. All right. So as we discussed, 3 Christmas movies that we picked because we wanted to discuss them today, and
Yeah, not because we thought they were the best or anything.
But what was great was it turned out. So I watched Scrooge. Scrooge is my pick today. I watched Scrooge, I guess when it came out. So as a young kid, I mean, it's the Christmas Carol, right? And the Christmas Carol, by default, you could call it a horror story. I mean, it's got ghosts, like it's a ghost story.
And isn't
Um,
the last one what the Christmas Future? Isn't he always kind of depicted as death or something?
yeah. So you've got that, but like in Scrooge, it takes it to a whole new level. I think. When I was a kid, it scared me to death in some of these scenes. There's a lot of scenes in there that are actually kind of scary for kids.
Yeah.
So we kind of picked three horror Christmas stories today.
Yeah.
It was so weird. I don't know how we did that. So mine was Scrooge, and I think 1988 with Bill Murray. D, you picked.
Santa Sleigh with Bill Goldberg that I think we all agree wasn't nearly as good as we remembered.
The thing is, it was the parts with here. We'll talk about when we get to that. The actual
Will's pick.
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Which so it's one of those movies, 1984, and growing up in the VCR, VHS tape, movie store rental era. There's so many horror movies that I never got to see when I was young, and all those cool boxes. I'm like, oh, I gotta see that one of these days. I always loved the box of this movie.
Yeah, and had good cover art.
Yeah, I always wanted to see it, and it took me till this weekend to finally see it. 40 years, but
it's like I don't know what order we're going to, but there's I remember the first time I watched Silent Night, Deadly Night. I was at the age where I probably shouldn't have watched it. I think I was like, it was right when it came on videotape. My mom and dad rented it because if I would have been 4 or 5 when that happened, my mom would have been 25 and my dad would have been 23 ish. So I mean, they were young dumb kids at the time.
Yeah.
And they probably didn't think I would notice or care, but the opening sequence to Silent Night, Deadly Night is one of the roughest sequences to a movie ever.
Yeah.
And like and we'll give people a chance. Here's your break to stop the podcast and go watch these 3 movies if you get a chance.
Well, I think. Well, I mean, you started talking about it, and chronologically, it's the first. So why don't we go ahead and
Okay.
talk about yours first?
Okay, so here's the chance for you people to bail. All right. Anyway,
Welcome back.
well, oh my God, did you watch that? You believe that shit?
Did you see all them boobies? A lot of boobies in that movie.
Okay, like the movie starts off and like it's a deranged Santa that's going around robbing places and killing people, and there's a parallel story of like this young family going to a retirement home to visit the invalid grandfather, and then like the little boy's left alone with the grandfather, and the grandfather comes alive, and basically he does, and this is something that like I've heard it on other podcasts like talk about it. Horror movies were better when they had the death curse guy. Now the death curse guy is like a Friday the 13th.
You're all gonna die.
I gotta warn you, you're doomed, doomed, doomed. You're doomed, doomed.
Yeah. And
It stood out to me as like not one of my favorite scenes of that movie.
yes, because like because it seems like something that like a fun grandfather would do to fuck with a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like this is that asshole grandfather was dead serious.
And his delivery of how over the top it was.
When I was watching it, I wanted to ask, like, do you think in any way that didn't happen and that was all in the kid's imagination?
Man, this thing I don't.
It was really weird because, like, the grandfather's acting like he's catatonic, and then the parents go away, and he starts talking to the kid, and Billy's like, "Oh, hey, mom," and he's like, "No," and he pulls him back because he obviously doesn't want them to. So I don't know if he was playing some kind of game, with the acting like he was catatonic with the people or anything, but at the same time, when like they talk about it in the car afterward, the parents are like, "Do you think that really happened?" And they almost acknowledge that it probably did, and that Grandpa Baba's such a nut.
Well, and then the stories converge, and and it's like it was weird because I remember the part because it was after Santa murders the father and rapes the mother and kills her, and the little boy runs off. And for some reason, that's when my parents decided, okay, we better stop this, we better shut this off. After I've already seen all that shit.
Then you got the
Like,
Probably the worst of it.
well, yeah. And then, it took me many years before I actually got to watch the whole movie. It was one of those, there's a couple of movies my parents kept away from me. And I remember, when I was, 24, I'm like, wait a second. They can't stop me from watching this anymore. So, I went out and bought Basic Instinct and something I did.
That's funny. My parents never shot away from. I mean, we were really young, probably, but in general, they never shot away from letting me and my brother watch movies. The only one that I definitely remember that they wouldn't let us watch was Basic Instinct.
And the thing is, I guess it was controversial at the time, but there's shit on HBO that we're so used to seeing now that Basic Instinct could. If they released it today, the most controversial thing would be the smoking. That's the thing everybody would be fucking talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Billy ends up going to, was it he's raised by nuns.
Yeah.
And Catholic orphanage. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have it's a slasher movie, and slasher and vigilante movies, they have the before and they have the after. Now, usually it's done with a flashback at the beginning of the movie, and then we many years advance and we get to the meat of the story. Now, this poor kid is now an adult, and he gets a job at a toy store, and things seem to be going okay. He seems to be well adjusted considering all that shit that happened to him when he was a kid, but he gets he gets put in a Santa suit.
Yeah.
And
after being traumatized by Santa killing his family.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, you can tell he doesn't want to do it, but they keep insisting, and he's forced to dress up in this fucking outfit of he's dressing up in the uniform of somebody that murdered his mom and dad, and he has to deal with it. And then he proceeds to snap.
Well, I think you're missing a key element here. So at the orphanage, with the Catholic nuns running it, you have the one that's this little young Billy. We need to try something new, because every Christmas comes, he flips the fuck out.
Yeah.
And he's the cool one, but the stern head mistress that runs this orphanage is just fucking ruler nun. She has beaten him.
Yeah, she's like, we'll just beat the evil out of him. That always works.
And so that plays a giant role in him as he becomes Santa Claus. Because that scene with him with the kids on his lap had me laughing out loud. I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but I was
the girl that keeps squirming, and he's like, "Stop it!" You're missing an important bit of trivia with the kid, though. So I was looking at trivia, and the kid, so his name was Billy. Well, that's what people called him, but his actual name was William in the show, because the angry nun will always call him William and stuff when she yelled at him. And I was reading this trivia about how they had trouble with him. His original name wasn't supposed to be Billy or William; it was supposed to be something else. But he was having trouble with the name, so they his actual real name is William, and he happens to be here on the show with us right now. So yeah, well, do you want to talk about your first and only role in Hollywood film?
So, and to go back, there's 3 actors that play that character, right? He's
yes.
You get an 7 or 8 year old, and then you get the adult, or soon to be adult. He's right on the verge. That first kid, does he ever amount to anything as an actor? Because I thought he was super good for his age. I thought he did a really good job. I mean,
but what's Well, the dude that played him is a grown up. I got his name written down here somewhere. Uh, okay.
Robert Brian Wilson.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. That dude, like, I love movies where characters snap. Like the opening of Falling Down, like when Michael Douglas is in the car and like he's in the traffic jam and like when the air conditioner's not working and he hears beeping and he just snaps and you can just tell he's broken. And then there's another movie that that has connections to Scrooged called God Bless America that has a similar thing. Have you all seen that movie?
Mm-hmm.
This guy, it's John Murray, it's Bill Murray's little brother, and it's directed by Bobcat Goldthwait, like who's in Scrooge. Both of them are in Scrooged. Like he finds he finds out he has cancer, and he's watching a reality show, and he's about to shoot himself, right? And he sees like this, like it's almost like this rich kid reality show, and he snaps. He's pissed off, so he just drives like hundreds of miles to just shoot this little girl in the face, just because he's like this is a talented little bitch, and it's one of the funniest movies ever. The when Billy breaks, it's as funny as God Bless America, where the opening sequence in Falling Down, because I mean, like, and you mentioned that the store manager had that Randy Quaid quality to him, and when he goes on to kill crazy, the difference between a vigilante movie and a slasher movie is just varying degrees of the punishment brought out. And this is a unique slasher movie because we spend more time with the slasher than just about any. He's the most relatable character in a movie because bad shit happened to him, and then instead of getting help to cope with the bad shit that happened to him, he had a crazy militant nun that was trying to beat the bad out of him, and it made him worse. And then finally he snapped and he broke and he went on one of the greatest killing sprees ever in a movie. And it's so fucking funny. I mean, like the sledding beheadings, fucking funny as shit. And then and there's a scream queen in this movie who has a cameo, and her name's Leanna Quigley. She's the one that gets impaled by the antlers, and her body and and I watched a couple interviews with her on YouTube last night. She should have been a bigger star. It just being nude in a horror movie back then was as bad as being in a porno, because there's no reason she could have been she could have played she's probably not as good an actress as Ellen Barkin, but she could have played those kind of roles in the mid '80s that Ellen Barkin was playing. Just it shows the lack of imagination in Hollywood. And Silent Night and Deadly Night also is notorious because there's a whole segment of a national TV show by Siskel and Ebert where they bashed this movie. They said it was in bad taste, and they said all the producers and all the crew members' names, and they were like, shame, 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 and all this negative press did was it made the #1 movie that weekend, and it actually beat out the very first Nightmare on Elm Street in the box office.
I saw that and was like, damn, that's crazy. But once again, that's what a good movie poster gets you. What good or bad publicity gets you.
But the thing is though, we were talking about Basic Instinct a couple minutes ago. There's nobody that's gonna watch Silent Night, Deadly Night, and and be inspired to go act like that. They're gonna watch that movie and they're gonna laugh, and they're not gonna laugh because it's a bad movie. They're gonna laugh because it's genuinely funny. I mean, just the here, poor guy who's traumatized by this event. Here, dress up as your traumatizer, and then you try to be normal. You try to have a Merry Christmas, even though that Christmas is associated with all bad things that happen in your life.
And I don't know where confidentiality sits in terms of nuns, but so they raise him from age 5 to I think he's just turned 16 or 17 in the movie, right? Because that would have put him close to being time to leave the orphanage. I was kind of what I was thinking. So they they get him the job. The good nun gets him the job of, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
You would think that if he's been having these traumatic episodes since he was 5, that like at some point in time you're like, hey, get this kid, they're great, but dot dot dot. Like, let me explain to you his trauma, because you would think that that would be brought up at some point, just in case. I mean, obviously, you're not gonna. I don't know. You're not gonna get put.
They
in a,
seem to know though. She kind of references it, but
yeah, it's just kind of funny that all of a sudden he's the one that gets picked. The youngest kid there, the youngest male there. The boss could. I guess his backroom boss could have played it, but no, that would have.
I couldn't help like the when the boss is drunk and he's going back in the back area, like straight up how Randy Quaid. I just saw like all the Randy Quaid mannerisms in him there.
I enjoyed the manager. The store manager was funny. He was a little goofy.
It sucks that the sandwich shop owner dies. Like I didn't feel, or the meat deli, whatever the hell it was.
Oh, okay. Sorry, yeah.
I guess it was a sandwich shop, but like he felt very undeserving to die. Oh shit! Fuck! I'm talking about my movie.
Damn. What are you talking about? I was like, what movie? I was like, I just watched this yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I mean, essentially,
all right, never mind. I'm stupid.
Because the kill scenes in this are at the store.
Yep.
And then he goes to the girl's house that you just mentioned, Will, a second ago.
Yeah, quickly.
Her and her boyfriend, or she's babysitting, and
she's being naughty.
meets an absolute gruesome death. Both of them do.
I love that scene. So I thought it was hilarious. I mentioned it that like, so like she's wearing pretty much nothing but her underwear at one point, you know, when she's trying to get it on, and then she hears jingling. It's like, oh, the cat wants in. So instead of putting a top on, she puts on these tiny shorts that aren't much more than her underwear was, and proceeds to go topless to answer the door to let the cat in.
It's so good.
Well,
it
did
so 80s.
Well, it did like the little girl who, and the thing is, there's sequels to this movie, but they all suck. But it seemed like that was a perfect sequence, right there, that they could have like flashed back. Like, you know, when that little girl gets the box cutter that he just massacred, like, for being a good little girl.
She's like, okay.
Like, you know, like it was so it's so funny. I can't say enough good things about this movie. It's one of my favorite slasher movies, and it's my favorite Christmas movie. I think, like by leaps and bounds. Because I mean it's quick. I mean, like, it's 85 minutes, and there's no fucking around in it. I mean, there isn't, like, you know, like the depressing independent shower scene where the guy's, like, you know, contemplating life, like, while he's in the shower, or, like, you know, like, there's not a whole lot of moping around by the main character, which, I don't know.
So, like, I mean, really, he's traumatized by, you know, all the Christmas stuff and the Santa and having to put on a thing, but he does kind of handle it pretty well. And, you know, he's sitting on the he's got kids sitting on his lap. He's got that one girl that's squirming and she's being a little shit, and he keeps. I thought that scene was kind of weird and funny. So he's just like, "Stop it, stop!" And then eventually he, you know, kind of tells her what his grandfather told him, that, like, you know, naughty kids, you know, Santa comes after him. It's not until the girl that he's interested in that works there, that he goes in the back room and he sees that shitty little short dude trying to rape her, that he really snaps, you know, and that really kind of brings back, you know, what happened to his mom and everything. That's when he really snaps.
And but so it goes from store to that one house. I guess he's just kind of like rampaging a little bit, right? There's no ties. And then from there, you kind of get the next morning where he goes back to the school. That's pretty much the gist of it, right?
Well, the sledding beheading.
Oh yeah, the sledding.
Oh,
yeah.
It was just on the
way. I mean, no filler. I mean, it's really just like dun 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 dun.
I mean, like, you know, like there's a bunch of sequels and there's a crappy remake, But this is one of those movies that, like, like you just need one. The first one's like it's a great fun movie. Like, I hope you all enjoyed my pick.
There's one thing that I'm glad it didn't do that I've as I've gotten older I've started to kind of hate, and that's you see it a lot in the Friday 13th movie. You see it a lot in slasher movies. Is the whole they kill all these people and then there's this like ridiculous reveal where like usually the person that's going to survive like runs into all their dead bodies, and I always I kind of hate those because they're so silly. Especially like Friday 13th, you have Jason who's like this crazy killer. His only goal is to kill people, but it's like if you went behind the scenes, you'd see him like kill somebody. He's like, all right, this person's dead. I got to string them up in the closet now. So when the door opens, they fall out all dramatically and hanging upside down. It's like he's spending all his time putting these people in these shocking.
Yeah, I wonder if I think a good parody, which maybe just my sick imagination for like I don't know if they ever did it in the slasher movie, like well in Halloween, like like when he's putting people in the bedroom and stuff like that. It would have been funny, like if you just see like the slasher that was traumatized as a little boy. It happened like when we're a little girl. It happened when they were having like a tea party or something like that, and they're resetting the table with their victims. That would be funny to me. I don't know, but I'm a sick bastard.
The part that got me that I'm like, I don't know about that, was the last scene. So when he shows up at the school, you have like 30 people in this hallway, and for some reason, like only one child notices this out of the brightness coming through that there's a Santa Claus standing there, and like they're able to get up, walk all the way to the door without anyone really noticing. Like, oh, there's Santa. Like, oh no, like we're in trouble after just seeing a Santa get shot outside the school.
Well, that's something like that would probably because again we're talking about the most controversial thing. The most controversial thing right now because of the current police atmosphere, the cops shooting the unarmed Santa.
Yeah.
But I kind of wish that he had the axe. He gets shot and was like stumbling around, and still found a way to put it in that nun. I think it'd still be. I think it'd been the greatest ending ever. If like half her head was hanging off, and the kids are just like ah. It's like and just credits roll because she deserved to get hers.
Yeah, that's one of the slasher movies. Usually, there's a survivor.
Yeah.
Everybody would fantasize about getting like the movie would have been a lot better if that lady got it. I mean, it's because like just a little empathy, a little sympathy probably could have prevented that. And she was the one. She didn't traumatize the kid completely, but she didn't fucking help out either. No. She kind of made it worse by like forcing him to participate in Christmas and stuff like that. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
But what a great movie.
Oh yeah, I remember my other bit was going to be. I guess it wasn't the same actor, but it was when he was, I guess, 8. He's in the orphanage, and he sees that couple getting it on through the keyhole, and then Mother Teresa, shitty mother, punished him by spanking him, and I was going to roll that into a bit of why Will has a spank fetish because he had an old nun beat him in a film.
Look, man, you guys come your way, I come mine.
I like that.
Let's do we have anything else to say about that movie, or are we moving on?
I think we can move on, and then we'll circle back and we can kind of compare.
Let's go ahead and hit mine up because it was probably the shittiest of them.
And it's probably the shortest one, I think, too. Even shorter than this one.
So mine was Santa's Sleigh, which is spelled S-L-A-Y with Bill Goldberg. Me and Barry and I think our friend Goldie watched it way back in the day, and I remember it being a lot better than it was, and I think we all kind of agreed that I don't know if it was just the time, or it just doesn't. I mean, movies just don't hold up well sometimes, but The only thing that I still really like about the movie is it actually has a story, and I like the story. So the basically the story is that Bill Goldberg's character is what, he's like a demon basically or something.
Son of Satan.
Yeah, and so his thing is like on Christmas to go around killing people. Well, he makes a wager with the grandfather's what, like a, is he just like an angel basically?
He's an angel.
Yeah, so the angel knows that Goldberg's character is a betting person, like betting man or whatever, like won't ever stop a bet, and so he makes a bet with them, and if Goldberg's character loses, he has to spend like the next 1,000 years being Santa Claus and delivering happiness and joy and presents to people. Well, he kind of gets tricked and loses, and so
that's curling, right?
it's more, it's like a mixture of curling and
Sliders. Y'all remember that?
or what's the one where you throw the beanbags?
Cornhole.
Cornhole.
Yeah, cornhole. It's kind of like cornhole because you're trying to get in the hole. Sometimes you get knocked in the hole, but yeah, basically they have curling, and they have a giant, like a hole in the ice, and you're supposed to get as close as possible without falling in. And so Goldberg's character slides it and gets it like right on the edge, and he's like, "Ha, I won! There's no way you can beat me." He goes first, and the grandpa goes second. And, does the trick of knocking his in the hole, which makes him lose. And so that's where we get our current modern day Christmas thing, is you have a Santa Claus that goes around and spreads happiness and joy and gives presents. But in the movie, that 1,000 years is finally up, and this is the first year that he gets to go back to being murderous, whatever, murderous Santa Claus.
I think I think when we watched it the first time,
yeah,
I think I liked Goldberg. Like I enjoyed the corniness of the Goldberg Santa Claus.
Yeah.
But I really do think the best part about the movie is, so I guess the main character technically would be the grandson.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend. I don't know what she is. It's kind of ambiguous a little bit at times.
Yeah.
And then his grandfather, who turns out to be the angel that turns Goldberg into the good Santa Claus.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's their banter that really I get to really enjoy, and it's that moment of because you get to it kind of quick, where it's like they're on the run. Once they get on the run, the movie just like it feels like it's smooth. It's a good movie, because by then it's probably about halfway through, and it's just like that's when I don't know, it just feels action packed from there on.
Yeah.
Well,
but of course,
a thing that like I don't mean to cut you off, Derek, but like I wish the movie would have came out after Crank. Like because I think that was that's because when you talk about the kids, that's the part of the movie I didn't like. I like, and and I hated Goldberg the wrestler when I was a kid, just because it seemed like it's like, wow, this guy's getting overexposed, and it was cool that like wrestling was actually becoming mainstream around that era, but like it's just like him. There's like Scott Hall and Steve Austin, but Goldberg. But but then I've seen interviews with him subsequently, and he seems like a fun dude.
Yeah.
And and he was smart enough to realize that he wasn't. He was playing this role somewhat straight. There was one-liners, but it wasn't like the Running Man Schwarzenegger one-liners that were kind of lame. Like they were like legit. He was legitimately funny in the movie. And we were talking about Tiny Lister, Zeus. He has a cameo in this movie, but
he pretty much is Debo in the movie, isn't he?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Except like a nicer Debo.
Well, but I wish I could have saw. It'd be it'd been nice to see Bill Goldberg like an actual just comedy. I mean, and not where, because I think he pops up in Sandler movies, but where he just, because he seems like he'd be a funny guy.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's the best part of that movie of Santa Slay for me, man. That the opening sequence, it's 4 minutes exactly, is fantastic. That's the thing I remembered most about the movie when I first saw it, when I was many years ago when it came out. And although there is a discrepancy, I know movies are bullshit, and we talked about this before we started recording. But as bad a dude as Bill Goldberg is, I don't think he would stand a chance in real life against James Caan. And although James Caan's probably about 40 years older than Bill Goldberg, James Caan was one of the baddest dudes when he was a kid, and he's still a pretty bad dude now. He's got to be almost 80. Oops, sorry.
That's scary. So Will, because I know that this other movie I'm about to mention is one of your favorites. Do you see any similarities between the opening scene of Santa's Sleigh and Punisher Warzone?
Yes, I had that written down in my notes.
Yeah.
For those of you out, we've never talked about it because, but we'll eventually get to comic book movies one of these days.
Yeah.
Punisher Warzone is great, and it's another one of my notes, Punisher Warzone movie is great because it almost mixes the over the top goofiness of trauma movies with the serious violence of Takashi Miike movies like Itchy the Killer and the Dead Were Alive trilogy, and that's what I was thinking about with the kills in Santa's Sleigh. Well, not as gratuitous as in Silent Night, Deadly Night. They're funny and fun.
Yeah.
And it's weird too. The other part about the movie I like are the older characters, Dave Thomas as the creepy evangelical
From
Robert.
Wendy's Dave Thomas?
No. Robert Culp as the angel, and Sal Rubinek as the deli owner. Sal Rubinik's a really, really funny dude. I don't know if he was a stand-up comedian, but he played it. But he's Canadian, and he was in two really cool movies. Just mentioned here. One was called Death Ship, and the other one is called Ticket to Heaven. And Ticket to Heaven in particular is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. It's about cults and brainwashing. We'll eventually talk about it on this show. I hope, anyway. It was one of those movies where I was thinking about when we were talking about our underrated movies a while back. I really wanted to put it on the list, but I'm like, you know what? This deserves its own special segment.
He's really good. I guess you'd almost call him a character actor.
Yes.
I still don't understand what that term means, but it fits. And he was in a show that I liked a lot called Warehouse 13. He was one of the main actors. But he was the
that lady keeps tracking your cat. Lady, leave the cat alone.
The sandwich shop owner that died that I kind of felt bad for. I was like, oh, he didn't really deserve to die.
I love that he uses the menorah. I just wish that I wish it was turned the other way. It was beautifully done.
There's a kind of weird scene where he gets he has, I guess, his the Jewish star or whatever on his necklace.
Yes.
And he shines it in Goldberg's eyes, and it kind of it almost seemed like it did something. It's kind of like a weird bit in that scene. I'm not sure what that was all about.
Well, and this is probably the second best use of a Zamboni in a movie after Deadpool, but the scene that cracked me the fuck up, man. The guy, and I can't remember the young character's name, Nicholas. He shines a light in Goldberg's face.
Yeah.
he went, I'm not fucking Dracula, kid.
Yeah. And the girlfriend, Emile Duravan, I think that's how you say it.
Yes.
She's actually she's had a pretty good career. She was one of the main characters on Lost. Was in the Hills Have Eyes. Remember Me with Robert Pattinson.
And
she's had a.
There's a movie that came out around at the same time because this movie came out in 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
There's a really cool movie called Brick. Have you all seen that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds so familiar.
Yeah, we watched that, Barry. It's got
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah.
It's one of his big early breakout roles.
Yeah. And she's great in that movie, and she's great in the Hills Have Eyes remake Because like I usually detest remakes, but that's actually one of the few remakes I actually like more than the original.
It's kind of rough her scenes.
It's a very mean spirited movie. Like it is like and I'm not one for critics to attack movies, but if there was ever a movie to be attacked for being sadistic, like the Hills Have Eyes remake should have been attacked. Not that I would have watched it anyway, and I'd still like it, but like
it's got those rough rapey scenes that we talked about in the past that are hard to watch. But I like the main good guy in that remake where he was kind of like the weakling hippie, and then he kind of snaps and becomes a badass.
Yeah, he has the straw dogs moment.
Yeah,
like which is like wild because I mean that's well we'll talk about the Splat Pack movies eventually. I think more about that because I mean there's that era. This era in particular when Santa Slay came out was when we started having a renaissance of this like every 20 years or so slasher horror movies come back in vogue. Horror's a dirty word and all of a sudden it's a clean word, and we start getting the Saws and the Hostels and the Hills Have Eyes remake and the Australian movie I can't remember the name of it, but it's not important. But anyway, like we'll get to it.
So something that I like that this movie does that I feel like of the big three that Friday the 13th does the best is those funny kills. We talked about the menorah getting shoved in the guy's throat.
Yeah.
The strip club scene has me laughing.
Another movie with a ton of tits in it.
Yeah, like I don't know how I missed all the names, all the joke names. Like I didn't notice that Tess Tickler was the main dancer that evening. But yeah, there's some great kills where he kicks the pole up. The guy's, I guess,
I had no clue what was going to happen.
The pole at the guy. I guess the guy catches it. Goldberg kicks it up in his hands, which breaks the light, which electrocutes the dude.
Yeah, so he grabs a stripper pole to fight with, like a really large gold baton, but first he sprays it down to clean it. and yeah, so he's kind of fighting with it, and then there's at one point where he's going after that guy, and the guy's kind of crawling backwards and gets pinned up against the wall, and he's like, shit. And so he stands up, he's like, I don't want to die, and he like throws the pole in the guy's hands. The guy's like, the fuck am I supposed to do with this? And and then he kicks it from below, and it goes up and goes in the light fixture above and electrocutes him. And then, and you had all these people at the very beginning. You had Fran Drescher, Chris Kattan, Rebecca Gayheart of Kentucky fame, the Noxema girl. I guess it's on some of these somewhat famous people in the opening scene.
And they all die.
Yeah.
That was what was cracking me up because we started the movie. It'd been so long since I'd seen it that I saw Brett Ratner's name on there. And I was like, wait a minute, there's a name that I've heard of that's in this movie? It'd been so long.
Well, here's that was something else I had written down because I saw his name. And like he's one of those dudes that got out of the Me Too thing. And he's got kind of a bad reputation from what I understand. And the old guy, the angel of the movie, Robert Culp, it's weird too because he's famous because he was on a TV show with Bill Cosby back in the 60s called I Spy. So this guy's kind of it's shitty that he's linked a couple ways to like these horrible fucking people because by all stretches of the imagination he seems like he's a pretty good guy. From what I'm reading about him on his Wikipedia page anyway.
So the strippers were Tess Tickler, Dixie Wrecked, Sierra Rains. I don't know if I get that one. And Crystal Candy.
Just great stripper names. Just great stripper names.
Testicular. That's fucking great.
It's so childish, but it's so good. You can't do anything but like it. I think that's what it was, D. We were just more immature then. We're still immature. But we were more immature then. And that's why we thought it was so funny back in the day.
Well, because the thing is, it's something that I can't figure out. Like because we're talking about like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and Santa Slay both have like over the top violence and female nudity. And and what's wrong with that? Like for some reason we've gotten away from like the things that like I'm sure like D.W. Griffith, if he could have had like like the aesthetics of like shit, what's that guy's name? Russ Meyer. Like there have been big breasted women in Birth of a Nation. Like
Just a bunch of black faced, big breasted women.
well, because they say, well, it's exploitative, and all movies are exploitation. Birth of a Nation is considered like the first major length movie, and it's a race hate movie. Like like it's exploitation. Like you're trying to get people to pay money to see something that technically doesn't. It's an illusion, and, and like one of the things that like when I was watching Santa Slay, like rewatching it at work last night, which I probably shouldn't have been watching that movie at work, but it's middle of the night. And like the couple customers, and like there's a girl that comes in, and I'm friends with her. We always talk movies, and she goes, "You just like this movie because there's breasts in it?" And I go, no. And she goes, well, "How come they never show penises in movie?" And I'm like, the thing is, I wouldn't. It wouldn't matter to me if I saw a fucking floppy dong. It's just breasts are more aesthetically pleasing to me anyway.
I mean, I've always seen and heard multiple girls be like, I don't like dicks aren't attractive. Like I don't, I'm sure if you got Chris Hemsworth naked on camera, they would like that. But just in general, just like a random dick flopping around, like not really.
Well,
it's apples and oranges too. I mean, you're talking. I mean, they've grown up their entire lives, in the '70s, getting to watch Arnold Conan, or I guess in the early '80s.
Yeah.
And he's just rippling biceps and pecs and like I don't understand like how you gonna compare boobs and dicks. Like I'm fine with nudity, it's fine either way, but like don't compare those two things. Like if they're like only showing vagina in movies and they're like where's the dick, that makes more sense. I don't know.
The thing is, we don't have a 1-for-1 when it comes to like
yeah
like breasts. Like again, like a dude walking down the street with his shirt off, not gonna really draw attention. Except you're gonna think that he's probably gonna get arrested for being cops.
So how about the vagina is equivalent to the penis, but the breasts are equivalent to the balls. There's two of both.
Yeah.
So like you have just ball shots, no penis.
Only balls.
Just ball shots.
Balls. Penis is X-rated. Balls.
Just kind of balls just bouncing around and being lopsided, and one hanging below the other, and
slow motion,
hairy, extra veiny, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, like that just, and plus, like they accentuate the male camel toe with the ball cleavage shot.
Yeah. It's like there's a little like meme picture I love where this it seems to be kind of like at a workplace, and this woman's wearing like a really low cut shirt, and the guy's like drinking coffee, and he can't help but look at it, and then the woman gives him a real nasty glare, and then like the next thing, she looks over and he's got his pants hanging down to where you can see like kind of like the top shaft of his pecker and hair and stuff. And then she looks and she's like aghast, and he looks at her and gives her the same glare, like, what the fuck are you looking at?
It's one of my favorite jokes, and like I get her with it every time. She's a friend of mine named Tiffany on Facebook, and she'll say something about like she's an attractive woman, and like guys will just stare at her. And I always go, yeah, I have the same problem whenever I wear my yoga pants in the fucking Kroger. Like, hey, ladies, my eyes are up here.
Yeah.
I'm not a goddamn piece of meat.
You were talking about the guy with the shirt off. It reminds me of a good memory with my dad where we were. I was around the car and he was driving. We were just going down this like little neighborhood road, and we see this long blonde-haired chick from behind riding a bicycle with no shirt on, and we don't say a fucking word, but we're both like because we're still kind of the father-son thing. I was probably like 14 or 15 at the time, And then we passed and we stopped. We all looked, and it was a dude. And then we kind of acknowledged it, like, oh, I thought that was a girl. Like, we didn't say anything leading up. There wasn't like, oh, dude, check this there's a topless chick. It was all, trying to keep proper father and son, not too weird. But we both saw it and were hoping and expecting, and then went out being like a dude with some long, glorious hair. Like,
That almost could have been like a verse in the Cats in the Cradle there, Derek.
yeah. Well, I guess that's it for our show, right? Nothing else to talk about.
Yeah, nothing else to talk about except I guess probably I'd say the
Third
most
movie.
mainstream of the movies we picked.
Yeah.
But I picked it because it's the most, to me, underrated, I guess, of the mainstream Christmas movies. And I don't understand because of the pedigree. I mean, you're talking Bill Murray.
It may be my favorite Bill Murray movie.
It's mine, and I do love some Bill Murray, but it's just perfect. When I was looking at doing some research for it, I think I mentioned last week, and if not, I've been watching SNL from the beginning. Season 1. I'm gonna try and get through some of the early '80s stuff at least, because that's the stuff I didn't watch. I grew up with SNL, 91, 92. When Wayne's World popped, I was watching SNL. Like, when I was allowed to stay up so late. But in season 1, you've got all the big names, and then you've got these two that kind of fall off. People are always like, well, you got Dan Aykroyd, and you got Chevy Chase, and you got Gilda, and you got Belushi, and Curtin, and then like you got Michael Donahue, and I can't remember Lorraine's last name, but Michael Donahue and Mitch Glazer wrote this script, and apparently what I've been reading is that I guess their script kind of turned into 40% of the movie script. Because it sounded like Murray kind of was big on changing some things around. But I don't know, it just fits him so well. He can play the biggest tool. And I guess we'll do a synopsis real fast. It is the classic Scrooge story, but set in the 80s. I mean, I've watched this week. I've watched an old 30s version of Christmas Carol. I watched the Muppets Christmas Carol, and then this one. This is my third Dickens of the week. That sounded bad, but it follows the premise. I mean, to a T, right? You got Murray. He plays a president of a TV company who I love how it's written, because I think it's December 30 or 23rd when it starts, and they're prepping for the big live televised Christmas Carol that his network is doing. And he's just an absolute ass. Bobcat Goldthwait's in this, and he's
Great
he catches
character
him in
too.
the hall. Yeah, he catches him in the hall and is like, like, sir. So I guess he puts a promo out. Murray does, that it is just glorifies the violence and sex and all this stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, Christmas Carol, you should watch it. And it's just atrocious, and exploitive, and just bad. So this guy comes up, Bobcat comes up and goes, hey man, we should maybe reconsider this. We should and so Murray fires him. And you get a taste that Murray's just a giant piece of shit, that he really doesn't have anybody. All of a sudden, I forget, I think it's his old boss that shows up, and he's been dead for 7 years. He shows up as his 7-year-old corpse and is chatting with him, and kind of giving him he's the Marley, right? So he's Marley, and he's kind of going through and telling him that he's gonna be visited by 3 ghosts, yada yada yada. And it's just Bill's. It's Bill being Scrooge, while they're trying to get this whole TV thing together, and it's his just almost a mental breakdown, where things keep happening. It's not all in one night. So Christmas Eve, the day of the big production, I don't know the guy's real name. I always forget it. It's Buster Poindexter, New York Dolls. Um, Plays a cab driver. Um, Bill Murray goes out to catch a cab. This old lady's about to get in the cab, and he's like, "Ma'am, you dropped something." And just to get her out of the way to steal her cab,
So David Johansen
yeah,
is the actor's name.
yeah. So he gets her out of the way, steals her cab, and oops, it's accidentally the ghost of Christmas Past. Uh, yeah,
That's such a great character in the movie.
yeah, he is so good, and he goes back, of course, to the '50s where he grows up, and you kind of see you really get you know all the Christmas Carol stories stick to Christmas Carol. Um, so you kind of get to see him growing up in the '50s with TV with parents that are kind of not really there. There's a beautiful scene where you kind of see Murray's got some range for sure, where he gets to see his mom again. And you kind of see it in all the other Christmas carols where like, oh my God, my previous self and like my younger self, and there's an old girlfriend or old so and so who I worked for, but like he sees his mom wish him a Merry Christmas as she's going to bed, and I'm sure she's long past, and so he's just having this moment. And he's crying, and
What's his dad get him?
his dad brings in 5 pounds of veal.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gives him veal for Christmas, which is
And then like
Straight.
chastises him when he wanted a train or something.
yeah. But you get him in the you get there, then you kind of jump ahead to where he meets the main love interest of the movie. Is it Karen Allen? Will I think it's Karen Allen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Indiana Jones fame.
Yeah, who I always get confused with is it Margaret Kidder?
Well, the thing is, that era, man, there's four of them. There's Margot Kidder, Karen Allen, Elizabeth McGovern, and Jessica Harper, and like all four of them kind of look similar, and they're all beautiful, and they're all kind of built the same, and and but the thing, they have distinctive personalities, but there was a type back then, and they all fit that mold. Like and it's weird because like it seemed like Hillary Swank was gonna kind of like bring it back. Wait, Hillary Swank. She's $1 Million Baby girl, right?
She's what?
$1 Million Baby Hillary Swank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got, but anyway, like she kind of fits that mold too, but like many years later, but, like and but the thing about Karen Allen, but all four of those, like, every time I see him in that era, and Karen Allen, like still to this day, like I fall in love with her whenever I fucking see her because she's like just like she's just got that just a wonderful face.
Girl Next Door beauty.
Yeah, I mean, like she's totally she's not a damsel in distress. She's totally believable as somebody that could keep up drinking with Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not a Ferrari either. She's not the eye candy hired just for that. Like she's just all around, just the all around girl next door. Like she's just perfect.
I mean,
but you get he comes back to it, and he's still kind of in disbelief of what he really saw. And then hours go by and he gets to see he runs into the Ghost of Christmas Present, which is played by Carol Kane, who's always fun.
Yeah. It's like kind of annoying, but like great what's a slapstick comedy trio? Stooges. Great Three Stooges kind of dynamism with Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. We were just talking about Karen Allen. Carol Kane, she's 68. I looked her up on IMDb this morning. She looks exactly the fucking same. I mean, it's fucking crazy. And like, if you from that era, like if you go back, there's a great movie called Wedding in White that she's in where she plays a teenager, and then like in the 70s. Then a couple years after that, she's one of the hostages of Dog Day Afternoon, and she's supposed to be in her 20s. And a couple years after that, she's in When a Stranger Calls, which is another great slasher movie, and she's playing a teenager, and she's believable. And she's probably in her 30s at that point. She doesn't age, and she's really funny, and and it's hard to take your eyes. She has a presence, and I wish that she was in more movies.
But you kind of get, so in this movie, it's a little different.
best fight scene ever, in a Christmas movie.
In this movie, so the ghost of Christmas Present. Um, he gets to see Grace. So Grace is his secretary, I guess,
Yes.
and she's the Marley, or not the Cratchit, um, and she kind of has her own little Tiny Tim. So she has a son that I guess whose father was murdered in front of his very eyes like 5 years ago. So he's not spoken since then. So you keep setting it up. You just know like he's going to be the Tiny Tim. He's going to say the killer one line at the end. Um,
Oh yeah.
did you see what they're up to? Um, but I think I may have skipped it, but the past you see that Karen Allen relationship too. So like I think you get to see what she's up to. She's running a soup kitchen. Her ideals are completely different. She's more of the let's take care of everybody, sweet, good, wholesome, where he is this capitalist pig that only cares about himself.
It's interesting, like not to get too far ahead of us, but it's interesting that she isn't like the heart and soul that can change him for the better. He actually makes her worse.
Yeah, it's true. Ultimately, all these things kind of piece it together, and she does play a part in it. But I think you're right. I think she drags him down. He drags her down more than the opposite.
Yeah.
You get to see his brother. It's more of a fleshed out Carol story. So like you get to see his brother. I guess he kind of plays the role of the nephew because in the original, the nephew is sitting around with his friends having Christmas. He's the one that pushes Scrooge to, hey, come visit. We're gonna have dinner. You should come. When the ghost takes him there, they're kind of picking on him for never showing up to the party, always working, always sending like the really shitty gift. Usually it's going to be a company towel. This year, Grace has actually sent him the VCR, which he knows better. He knows it's not his brother that sent this thing. It's too good. It's too nice of a gift to send.
Yeah.
But as he's just losing his mind because he doesn't. I mean, he's starting to turn for sure. But I think his big moments when the ghost of Christmas Future shows up and he does see his own, and like all the other versions, he sees his own death, he sees his own grave, and his
sees what happened to Karen Allen, where Karen Allen turns into like a rich, uncaring snob, and it was a good scene because what is it like? They're a bunch of rich people eating outside, and like a poor person comes, like a poor kid, and she kind of shoos him away, and like the other rich people are kind of upset and like shocked by her extreme disdain, and then she has a good quote from Bill Murray's character, and then she kind of breaks and starts crying because she remembers who she used to be, who she really is, but she was kind of brought down by Bill Murray's character. So you get to see where he basically ruined her, which I think the character, I think Bill Murray's character, he's like a shitlord. I think that he realized, acknowledged, and respected Karen Allen's character for what a good person she was. He just was like, I'm not wasting my time doing that. But I don't think that he had disdain for her for doing that. And then when he saw what he did to her, I think that's one of the big things that affects him.
Yeah, I mean those early. So I talked about Bill Murray crying, seeing his mom back in the Christmas past. Those scenes with them, and while they're dating in their younger days, are super. They're just well done. They're just really nice.
Yeah. Very sweet.
Yeah, very sweet. But eventually, so he comes out of the Christmas Future episode, and Bobcat, I think, pops up in his office. So Bobcat has went through hell since he got fired.
He had the falling down snap.
Well, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
This was this kind of caught me because I've seen Scrooge many times, but this is the first time I watched it. Since my dad passed, and my dad got cremated, and and I couldn't that scene. I'm horrified of being buried alive and being in but and being enclosed and there's so many things in that scene that like fuck with me, but it just made me sad thinking about my dad because I think a big part about the Dickens story is that life goes by so fast that that you're not going to remember like if you're having a massive heart attack and they're cracking your chest open and they're telling you, hey, look, you might not wake up, we're going to try our best to save your life. You're not going to remember like, hey, look, I'm so glad I skipped that cookout so I can work overtime that one weekend. Like you're gonna try hopefully your last memory isn't something that shitty. Hopefully it's something happy that you experience. And I think the whole lesson of that story is to make the most of what you got because it's the little things that matter at the end, not the fucking nonsense. And I don't know. That was my takeaway from it.
And to kind of go with that too. So the ending. I mean, this is a 30-year-old movie, so I've been spoiling the plot already.
We gave everybody a warning at the beginning. That,
Yeah.
it was enough time for them to hit pause and go watch all three of the movies and come back to us.
But it kind of has it's like a meta twist. It's kind of hard to describe because you've got the old school Dickens story going parallel to this. Like it's being filmed, and he's like, I got to get to the set. I've got to get there. I've got the good news now. I feel it. Like I understand what Christmas is. I understand what life is now. Um, as Scrooge in the Carol is doing the same thing. He's passing the dime or the coin down for the kid to go get the goose for the Cratchit family, and he shows up on set and cuts the production essentially. Like he interrupts the production, and to me, and once again, I don't know if it's nostalgia. I just always loved this movie. But like to me, this is like the Rock. I can't think of the name. Like the Ronald Reagan football movie. Will New Rockney,
I don't know that one.
the win one for the Gipper. Like it's that like monologue that someone's gonna have that's gonna change everything. It's the great dictator speech that Chaplin gives.
Okay,
Like Murray shows up on the set and just kind of like rambles, but it's the best kind of ramble. Like he's all over the place. He's so excited. And apparently, a lot of it's been was ad libbed and kind of thrown out there. But like he's stumbling. He's so happy to deliver this message, and I just love that ending. I don't know what it is. It's just, but he's just filming that. He's like, why are you watching this movie that we're making? Like, get out there, love, go find people, do whatever you can with your fellow man, and like it's just that great universal message that he's finally like understood and he wants to share. And
I'm sad that you glossed over possibly one of the greatest characters in the movie, which is Michael J. Pollard's the bum.
Oh yes, that was heartbreaking.
Oh yes, yes, yes,
And that scene creeped me out as a kid when he's frozen.
yeah.
It's like really creepy looking, where he's like all like the lighting and that's a great and kind of messed up scene where he's like frozen under the walkway. He can like people are above just walking out right above his corpse.
Yeah, I forget how he gets. I forget how he gets there, but yeah, Murray gets into the sewers, type of setup.
Yeah,
And, yeah, and Herman's just sitting there frozen. So you meet Herman at the soup kitchen. It's Herman and there's a couple. There's a couple actors there that you recognize. I can't think of who they are now, but they all, I guess, they're kind of mentally they have issues.
as little homeless people do.
Yeah, and they're calling him Richard Burton, and I don't know why they compare Bill Murray to Richard Burton, but so I think he mentions being married to Elizabeth Taylor at some point in time, joking with him, but he treats him with, he's okay with him. He's conversing with him. He's not like you're fucking nuts. He's just yeah, sure, and he gets to know these guys a little bit while he's there waiting to talk to
Karen Allen's character
Claire. And so yeah, once one of these episodes, I think it's the Ghost of Christmas Present. I Could be wrong. Maybe it's the future. But anyway, he gets into these sewers, and all of a sudden, Herman, who had tried to hit him up earlier for money to pay for electric. I was kind of confused. He said he was asking for money for, I think, for heat. I don't understand. I don't know if he was like trying to buy matches. He asked him for a couple bucks. Bill Murray didn't give it to him. All of a sudden he's back in current day, and he finds his body froze to death in the sewers, and
He's got the watch in his frozen in his hands.
yeah, and yeah, I forgot about that. I don't know why I didn't bring that scene up, but and once again, this movie is filled with like scary scenes. There are things that like really get your heart racing.
Yeah, the ghost of a Christmas future, where he opens up his jacket and looks like all these like babies and like trying to climb out or something.
Yeah.
Well, this is a few things that I was thinking about. There's a trilogy of asshole Bill Murray movies. Like, this is the first part of it. Like, if you watch Scrooge, Groundhog Day, and Kingpin back to back to back, you'll see the evolution of a horrible. Like, he gets worse in every movie. I mean, like, and at least the first two, he kind of finds redemption. And Kingpin, like, it's not really his movie, but like, he's the best part of that movie because he's that big of a prick. But another thing that I was gonna bring up, the director Richard Donner. I went to his IMDb page as well today. And are you all familiar with this guy?
I mean, I just don't for. He's a big name. I mean, he's made some hits.
Well, that's the thing. Like I bet you he doesn't get bought up in the same breath as like Spielberg and Lucas, but he the first Omen he directed, the Superman, the first Superman, and part of the second Superman because there's some controversy about that. All for the Lethal Weapons, Goonies. He produced Lost Boys. I think he was a producer on the Tales from the Crypt TV show, and like this guy, like there's nothing flashy about him as a director. He just makes good movies.
Yeah,
and he made good movies that made a lot of money that made people happy. So he pleased everybody. Like I mean, and this is the best version of the Scrooge story, and it's probably the best version of a Dickens story in general, because I don't know if you all know much about Dickens, the author. As great as he was, his books, like there's Tale of Two Cities is a good book, but you really have to be a concentrated reader and be able to like take notes and pay attention in order to follow along with the story. And A Great Expectations the same way, Nicholas Nickleby's the same way. They're great books, but like that was back in the era where like like reading was the only source of entertainment you had. And from what I understand, the Christmas Carol that's the official name of it, right? Mm. It's only like 80 pages long. It's not a long book. It's the shortest of his things, and I think it was one of those things where he and I could be wrong about it, but I think he was one of those guys that like he wanted his money. They were bootlegging his stuff over here in America, so he came over here to get his fucking money, and he's got quotes in the Gangs of New York a book, which is pretty cool if y'all ever get a chance to look that up, because he saw that like the 5 Points area that's covered in the Gangs of New York was just as bad as anything in England at that time. But he created like it was his most commercial story because it's about like ghosts and stuff like that, and serious authors didn't talk about that shit back then, even though Edgar Allan Poe was a contemporary of his, and William Shakespeare was like one of his biggest influences. Demons and shit like that. We're not demons, but you know what I'm saying. But anyway, I lost.
You're cutting out a little bit there. Anyway,
I lost my train of thought.
Oh. No, it's just I can't gush more about this movie. It's just yeah, easily. I mean, kids these days. So we grew up. And I've already talked about this ad nauseum, but like we grew up in the era where like I know of old movies because of Looney Tunes. I know of opera because of Looney Tunes. Um, like what was on our TV was, they were still filling up time slots. It seemed like we were still seeing old movies shown on like TBS would play old movies. Um, like kids don't see anything past like 80 now on TV because TV's its own thing now anyway. But um, I feel like the Christmas Carol is one of those that still has kind of transcended time. Like it's still, when I was in school, I was in college 20 years ago taking English lit. The things that we thought were important then are less so now because we've got some time that moved on. We still study Shakespeare, but there's certain things that are still trapped in the past that have we've lost, right? And I think for the most part, kids still know Christmas Carol. I'm pretty sure they do. Um, but to me, like this is the one they need to watch if they don't want to. I don't care about some old fart that lives in England. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like this is the one that like is exciting. There's fucking shotguns. Uh, there is scary monsters. There's a lot of it's 80s. I don't know what this thing is rated. I'd assume is it a PG-13 movie?
Well, again, like and I bring it up all the time, and I wish I'm trying to like convince you all to go on a journey with me. It's another one of those fucking movies from 1988 where like there's so many great movies from that year, and I don't know what it was in. It'd be interesting to figure out what was in the atmosphere, like what while all those great movies that were released in 1988 were being shot. What was going on in 1986 and 1987 that because usually directors and filmmakers and writers and actors they bring what's current to the movies. It's usually a reflection of the events going on at the time. Yeah. But like Ebenezer Scrooge is probably like one of the best characters ever created, ever. I mean, and he was only in one very small book, and he's lived on all these years. And Scrooge is the best version of that story. The Disney ones, with actual Uncle Scrooge is great, and which I can, for somebody as litigious as the Disney, somebody for a corporation that's as litigious as Walt Disney is, they had no problem just ripping off other people's intellectual property.
Yeah,
because Uncle Scrooge is one of the best Disney characters ever, the second best duck after Darkwing from the Disney thing, and but they blatantly stole him from Dickens.
Yeah. Well, and his name is kind of a term given to people.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're a big Scrooge or whatnot. His name is that's transposed into that.
Well, that's something else that further I think would be an interesting show, because I brought up Groundhog Day earlier. More people, they know what a Stepford Wife is than have actually probably seen the movie. People use Manchurian Candidate as a political slur, and they probably never read the book or watched the movie. And I think that Scrooge falls in that category where people they know what a Scrooge is, but they might not even know where it came from. Which that's probably the best compliment any work of fiction could have.
Yeah.
What's sad is so Scrooged for the the reviewers, like professional reviewers or whatever, rating on Rotten Tomatoes is 71%, and then you have Groundhog Day at 96. Groundhog Day is an excellent film. There should not be that big of a difference. 71 to 96%.
Yeah, it's wild that it's that low. Because like I said, I found no fault in this. Groundhog Day can be a little slow. Obviously, same day over and over again with some changes here and there. But I love Groundhog Day back in the past. But it's to me, it's this, and then What About Bob? I think is my maybe Ghostbusters, but I mean, of your like Bill Murray centric movies, I think What About Bob smokes Groundhog Day. But
See, I disagree with that, man. Like Groundhog Day is a perfect movie for me. It's like there's nothing wrong with that movie. Like my only complaint is I wish it was a little bit longer. But like I just because I mean like usually I want movies to be shorter to get the fuck so I can get on to the next thing. But Groundhog Day actually like I wish there had been more of him being an asshole at the beginning.
Well, that's Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, like if you just had that more of those scenes where he's the days that you don't see, right? I guess because you get like a glimpse of that. He kind of summarizes it for somebody, and it sounds like I want to see that day. Like, show me those days.
Well, because we'll talk about, but like like and then probably would be a good like double feature to watch Scrooge and Groundhog Day back to back. It'd be like a Beautiful Mind and the Noah movie because like I don't know if did y'all ever hear about that double feature?
No.
Okay, A Beautiful Mind's got Russell Crowe and Jennifer Connelly in it, and they're also in Noah as well. And A Beautiful Mind, like it's about the guy who's having the crazy visions in his head, and he's slowly going crazy. Is his name John Nash? And if you just imagine that Noah's some kind of weird sequel to A Beautiful Mind, it's the shit that's going on in his head. It makes both movies better. Like it almost seems like at a certain point you can stop watching Scrooge, and you could start watching Groundhog Day, and it seemed like okay, it would make Bill Murray as big as a prick as I want him to be.
What's one thing that's crazy? It'd be interesting to talk about with Groundhog Day is the amount of days he relives. Because in the movie it's only like a handful, but they've done like articles on it and stuff, and I want to say the most accurate model that people have come up with is 8 years, 8 months, and 16 days that he spent reliving that day. And Harold Ramis himself, the director, said it was 10 years. So it's crazy to think about that it took him that he relived that day like 12,395 days.
That sounds insanely high, but think about how much he knows the end of it. Like now. Like he's had to follow everybody in that story, at least once to remember their day. And even then, you do that. You try to watch like all the Simpsons, for instance. You forget what season 1 has in it by the time you get to season 30. That's a lot of shit to memorize. So that sounds about right. I don't know how long it would take, but it sounds fairly accurate.
Yeah.
We will probably be covering that in the next couple weeks on our future Groundhog Day episode. So stay tuned, folks.
Anything more on Scrooged?
No, it's just a terrible movie. I don't know why anyone ever will watch it.
The thing is, like, as far as Christmas movies go, like these are 3 ones that, like, A Christmas Story is a good movie, but I don't know if it's good 24/7 on 3 different fucking networks. And like oh yeah, that was the funny thing. Did you all hear about the Jingle All the Way thing that happened? It was so funny. They were showing Jingle All the Way on TNT, and it's just one of those movies that like it's kind of it's got a reputation as being a bad movie, which it is. But like a bunch of people were watching it, and for some reason they just like 25 minutes before the movie was over, they just rolled the credits because they wanted the time slot in something else. And it trended on Twitter because they cut the movie off. It's so fucking funny. They're like they probably just assumed that nobody cares. Fuck it, and everybody started complaining.
That's funny. Of all things to get mad about.
I guess if you want a modern day Christmas movie, which I haven't seen yet, but there's the one with oh my god, I can't think of his name, from Lethal Weapon.
You're talking about the Fat Man.
Yeah, Fat Man.
It sounds absolutely insane. I don't know if it's like one of those, I'm like, I've got other things I want to watch, but everybody says it's good that's seen it that I've talked to.
Well, the thing that turns me off about the movie is like once I found out how big of a prick Mel Gibson is, it's hard for me to watch like his movies.
Yeah.
Even though I mean like Even the ones I love, like the first Lethal Weapons and the Road Warrior Mad Max movies. I'm so glad that they didn't have him in Fury Road. Like, because I don't know.
I feel like he's maybe come around. I don't know. It's like some of those things. Like, do you ever lose those opinions and mannerisms and stuff like that? But I don't think he's had any like bad things happen or come out in a while, and he's had good things said about him from like other actors, like big time actors. So I don't know if he's on the mend or if he just still is that person.
Well, we were. It's a big discussion going right now because of the J.K. Rowling thing. Have you all been following that situation? For some reason, like this lady who, all the good that she did in the world, like if you can get kids to read a fucking book in this era, you're a magician, you're a wizard, and like you can't be good enough to say things about it. But for some reason, she insists on dying on that trans people aren't people hill. And the thing is, she won at life. She shouldn't have any kind of criticisms about anything ever again. And that was the problem I have with Mel Gibson, because the dude was already rich, and then he did that Jesus movie, and he produced it himself, and he made all that money, and they show that every Easter still, and he gets kickbacks from that. He got to the point like he's I don't know if he's how much of a but he's got to be easily 100 millionaire, no problem. He's got enough money where he doesn't have to really worry about anybody or take anybody's shit. That's why he can still keep making movies. He's got a shitty reputation. But I don't understand how somebody can be that rage. Like, if somebody's poor, I can understand them being pissed off at the world like that. But he won at life.
Net worth is $425 million.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean he's closer to $500 million than a lot of other people, and like he doesn't have to worry about anything. And I don't know. It amazes me that somebody like for all the good that they might do in their life, or all the goodwill that they built up, they can just piss away for something stupid.
Yeah. It's the world we live in, though.
I just weird hills to die on.
Yeah. We live in a interesting world of accountability, for better or worse. Mostly for the better, but
all these people will have a Scrooge moment and then turn into better people.
yeah.
Oh, but here's the thing though, like it's something that like in our woke culture, even if you have a Scrooge moment now, there's no path to redemption. Like we don't, for some reason we'll let some people slide. I mean, it's different now, almost in the Me Too era, because like Polanski, they just kind of skated over like the
Yeah.
the stuff in his life, like the child rape, and like this is like was Ray Rice the football player in the elevator?
Yeah.
Okay. What he did was horrible, and I'm not condoning it at all. But Ray Lewis criticized Ray Rice for that. Now, and Ray Lewis, I don't know if he murdered anybody. I don't want to get, in case anybody ever hears this, that might sue me. I don't think he killed people, but there's two people on the planet that are no longer alive that had the misfortune to run into Ray Lewis or his boys that night. And Ray Lewis knows something that he's not. But, how's he the moral judge of Ray Rice? I mean, granted, what Ray Rice did was bad, but I'd rather get the shit kicked out of me in an elevator to get murdered.
Well, it's like the Matt Lauer thing, which I can't remember. Matt Lauer, the newscaster, had all these incidences of sexual harassment or assault or whatnot, and then he was on the news, before that stuff came out, like chastising the people who are doing the things he was doing and talking about how horrible it was and stuff.
I think it's a matter of scale and a matter of time. I really do, because someone gets to a certain point and it's just either forgotten or they've shown enough. But you're not going to get, probably it'll still take a couple more years, I think. And now with today's culture of information at our fingertips, it's gonna take longer than it used to, for sure.
Security
think,
cameras everywhere.
yeah, but I think eventually, like Louis C.K. will find work eventually. He'll turn out to be. He wish he could jack off on women like he used to, but now he's too old to.
I mean,
And
there's gonna be a point where he jokes about it too.
yeah, and people will be like, "Oh, I remember that," but he'll be like 70 at that time. And
I
so
mean, you got Pee Wee Herman, who kind of came back, but I mean, he was never like really a big actor to begin with, anyway. So it wasn't like he was Mel Gibson. But
I mean, a well-known celebrity, yeah.
But of course, the whole Pee Wee Herman thing was silly because he was jacking off in a porn theater. Like I can't imagine people going to a porn theater not jacking off.
Yeah,
I thought I'd never been to one or anything.
Well, it does seem like like who are you to pass a judgment in a porno theater if you're in a porno theater?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, like we had one here in Lexington, but I never had the nerve to go there. 2004, I think it was what it was called. Which, y'all remember this at all? Weird. It was by the strip by Platinum, and it's weird because it's on a street called Family Circle, which is cracks me up. And like there's like I think there's a McDonald's there right now. It's pretty funny, but
you could have met some like lifelong friends there if you had gone. You missed out.
No, but here's the thing: like beating off is kind of a personal thing. And I don't need the risk of getting caught in order to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
But Will, have you tried it with others? You don't know. You may like it.
Well, I don't mean that they like they help each other out. I more mean like they go to the movie, they do their thing, and then it's kind of like when you go to the movie with friends, you come out and start talking about so after Will does his thing, he leaves the theater and they're outside. And it's like like what part did you shoot at? Like, oh yeah, I shot at that part too. Like, yeah, do we become best friends?
Did we become best friends? Yeah.
I don't think Will likes that idea.
Well, no, just for some reason, who watches porno like that?
I just love the idea of having groups of friends. So like our buddy Ken took on drawing illustration, and it's one of those things where like I will scribble but I don't draw, so he's another set of friends, and we it's like the old crew over here and then the artist buddies, and we're trying to intermingle and stuff. But like, would it not be hilarious to have a party at your house and you're like, hey man, who are these people? And they're like, oh, they're my jack off theater buddies.
Yeah. But no, don't get the wrong idea. Like, we don't jack each other off. We just we all go.
That'd be weird.
Yeah, that'd be weird. Like, we all go to the theater together. We sit spread apart, so it's not too weird. We jack off, and then like at the movie, we talk about our favorite jack off parts.
Like, let me introduce you, but don't shake his hand.
Yeah.
Right. And also, like, I don't know. When you were describing the jack off thing, like the theater, for some reason I can't get past the modern day, like like what's going on, and for some reason I just imagine a bunch of just dudes in the theater wearing masks and just beating off. And for some reason the hottest part of the porno movie is like, wow, she's maskless.
I'm like, oh man, look at those lips.
I can see your cheeks.
Well, we've devolved into porn as usual.
But
you got anything else to say before we sign off?
Wear a mask, don't be a cunt. Social distance. There's no reason to be elbow to elbow jacking off next to each other.
Yeah. All right. I guess until next time.
Bye, everybody.
Penis. Penis.